Hi, I'm Cathey Armillas. Welcome to TV Toastmasters. I'm excited to be interviewing today a wonderful, amazing guest, Roni Sasaki. She is the author of From the Start. Roni, how are you?
I'm doing great, thank you.
Thanks so much for coming in today.
It's good to be here. I'm excited to share with you and visit.
You have a spectacular story, and I'm always really grateful when people take the time to take something that's happened in their life that's been a challenge and they turn it into something good, but not only that, then they share it to the world. So tell us a little bit about your story. I don't want to prep it for you, so tell us.
Well, my book is called From the Start, and I named it From the Start for a couple of reasons. I was born with one leg, so I figure from the start of my life, I was born with what people called a handicap. These words are not politically correct anymore. Handicap, disability, birth defect. These are some of the labels that I grew up with. And I struggled to love and accept myself because I was the different girl, the one with one leg, the crippled girl, so to speak. I had kind of a secret desire to be an athlete, specifically an Olympic athlete. All that seemed completely ridiculous, having one leg. When I couldn't run, I couldn't compete, I call it leg to leg, with the other kids. So typically I would come in last place. So to have this crazy dream of being an Olympic athlete seemed very far-fetched. But one day when I was a teenager, and after I'd gone through an entire journey really of accepting my leg, to the point where I would say that I embraced it as being, rather than a curse, I saw it as a gift. When I made that transition on the inside, then things began to change on the outside. And one day I received a phone call from a woman who said, "Would you like to learn how to ski?" And I thought, I think maybe I could be good at skiing, because skiing it's a great sport for people who have disabilities. Again, I use that word. Nowadays they say adaptive. Skiing is a very adaptable sport, so it works for people with a lot of different disabilities. So she took me up to Mount Hood. We learned how to ski on one leg. She had one leg also. And then after I could ski, a couple years later, she invited me to enter my first ski race. So
Wow.
I went on to become a member of the U.S. Disabled Ski Team. Yes, that's what it was called back then. And ultimately,
Not as PC.
No, it's not called that anymore. Nowadays, it's the U.S. Adaptive Ski Team.
Right.
But I went on in 1992 to win a gold medal and 2 bronze medals in the Paralympics.
Roni, oh my gosh, can I give you a high five on that? That's amazing. So how did your coach find you? Where did that come from? I mean, you just said somebody called you one day and said, it's crazy that you were thinking, you know, I dream of being an athlete, not only an athlete, an Olympic athlete, and that this would all just come to fruition in your life. How did that come about?
Well, I'd wanted to learn to ski because I'd seen a couple of one-legged skiers on TV. So I knew it could be done. So my parents began to call some of the ski areas looking for an instructor. And it was kind of funny because, yeah, somebody that could teach me how to ski. And they sort of hit a stone wall because the answer they got was, well, we don't know of any instructors. But they would leave name and phone number. So apparently my name got passed around to this organization called SOAR, which I don't believe is in existence anymore. But back then it was Shared Outdoor Adventure Recreation.
Oh.
And it was an organization that taught disabled people how to do different sporting events. So it could be horseback riding, it could be kayaking. In my case, it was skiing. And it was a nonprofit and pretty much all volunteers. So my name got to this organization, and Jan, who was one of the volunteer ski instructors,
said, "I ski."
Gave me a call and said, "Would you like to learn how to ski?"
Roni, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
That is amazing. How old were you at the time?
I was 17.
Oh my gosh. Wow, that must have been really exciting. Must have been like a really exciting time. Wow. So you actually, did I get the timeline right? Did you said you did it for a couple of years before you entered your first race?
I skied for 2 years, but I didn't ski very much in that 2 years. I skied maybe 2 times my senior year in high school, and then another couple times my freshman year in college. Then when I was a sophomore in college, I decided, you know, I really love skiing and I want to do it more. So I joined a ski club at a neighbor college, and they allowed me to ride the bus up with them every week. And I checked the box for beginner skier. I didn't say on the application, I've only got one leg, by the way.
Yeah, yeah.
So when I got there, they were going to throw me into a group lesson, and they realized that I only had one leg, and they're like, we better find an instructor for you. So one of the directors of the ski school actually took me out for private lessons. So I had 5 weeks of private lessons with him. And then I entered my first ski race.
Oh, wow.
And it was a race of beginner skiers.
Yeah.
We were all, you know,
Just starting.
just starting out. So coincidentally, though, I ended up winning. I was the best of the worst, is what I like to say. The best of the beginners.
The best of the beginners, I would say, yes.
So I won 2 little tiny medals and a blue ribbon for the overall. You know, it did something inside of me. I decided that this is the sport for me, and I wanted to pursue it with everything that I had. So I found a coach, I found somebody to train with, and began working very persistently to get better and qualify for my first national championships.
You got a little taste of getting the 2 medals and the blue ribbon, and you were like, you know, all chips on the table, I'm in.
I'd always come in last. My whole life I was so good at coming in last.
Aww.
So to suddenly get an award for winning, and in my mind it didn't matter that it was a class of beginner skiers.
Right. Well, you know, I'm sure you had that thing, if I can conquer this little pond, I can conquer another pond. I just have to do this on a bigger scale. That's fantastic. So then you kind of doubled down on everything, and you really, so this is like you're in college now at this
I was in
point,
college,
right?
and I wanted to finish college.
Right.
So I transferred from a small private school to Portland State University, where their schedule was more flexible so that I could ski. That was, everything had to revolve around skiing.
Yeah.
And as soon as I graduated from college, I packed up my car and moved to Colorado. In Winter Park, there was a program there that was an actual racing training program for people of all different disabilities. There were blind skiers, there were a lot of one-legged skiers like myself, there were skiers with no legs, one arm, no arms, sit skiers, they're called mono skiers. And so it was just all the gambit of people who were missing limbs or missing the use of their limbs or eyes, body parts, as I like to say. Missing body parts.
Just missing, yeah.
And so we trained full-time, and there was some of the best skiers in the world trained there. So it was really good for me because I was always surrounded by people who were better than me.
Yeah.
And it brought me up to their level.
I love that too, because it's such a good lesson in life, right? If you want to get better at anything, surround yourself with people that are better than you.
Yeah.
Because it always, you know, it's always going to, you know, cause you to grow. I mean, you're never going to stay stagnant. There's always something that you could be reaching out for. I love that. That's great. You embraced it so much. So, okay, where is this in regards to like your track to going to the Olympics? And when did the Olympics even become, like when did that even get into your sight?
Well, when I moved to Colorado, my goal was to someday make the U.S. again disabled.
Okay, so that's exactly what you were going for.
Yeah, I was shooting for it. I set my sights and I began to take action and move toward that. So my goal was to become a member of the U.S. Disabled Ski Team. And in becoming a member of the U.S. Disabled Ski Team, hopefully, ultimately, race in the Paralympics. And there was even hope of competing in the regular Olympics. Back in those days, we were really trying to find our place. Things have changed a lot. The Paralympics nowadays have grown in popularity and media coverage, but back 30 years ago, things were very different. We were starting to get some media coverage, starting to get some recognition, start to be treated as serious athletes, but it still had a long way to go. So we had actually hoped to get disabled skiing in the Olympics as an actual event, and there was some demonstration or exhibition sports that happened. I believe the year was maybe 1990 or maybe 1988, excuse me. But it didn't happen. It hasn't happened. And now the Paralympics shadow the Olympics by about 2 to 3 weeks in the same venue.
Oh, gotcha. Oh, okay. Yeah. So then you go to Colorado and you're training around all these people, and then what was the process for getting chosen and making it to the team?
Well, winning races helps.
Yeah. that would always be a plus, right?
Yeah, it helps. I came from the Pacific Northwest, only racing maybe 1 or 2 times a year, of moving to Colorado and competing in a lot more races, but the races were bigger and the competition was way tougher because people from all over the world would travel to some of these big races.
Yeah.
So I started coming in last place and began to move up and move up. And I had many races where I sat at the end of it and cried because my performance was not what I wanted it to be. And I think that's just part of it, learning and getting tough and learning. It's not just about training the body, it's about training the mind to be worthy of winning.
Right.
And willing to step into that role. So I began to move up and began to get noticed by some of the coaches from the U.S. team.
I love that, Roni. I love that. It's a mindset thing too. It's not, winning isn't always just being better than other people, and I'm sure that you had to deal with a lot of that mindset issues and just everything. Wow, that's an incredible feat. So you ended up writing this book. I love this from the start. This is so beautiful. You ended up writing this book. So tell me about the process of writing the book.
Well, I always thought when I retired from ski racing, which was in 1992, I thought someday I need to write my story. But I didn't see myself as a writer.
Right.
And I was having children and getting involved in beginning a family. I started a business along the way. So there were a lot of distractions, things that took me away. And year after year, I would think in my mind, someday I should write my story.
Right. Someday.
And years are going by, and pretty soon I'm in my 40s, my late 40s, no less. And it's kind of a now or never. If I'm going to write this thing, I'm just going to start doing it. And I had a friend who encouraged me just to start writing.
So you started writing it, and did you just literally say, I'm just going to write my story? I'm going to start from the beginning, from the start,
Exactly.
from when you were born, and talk about all the challenges. So who would this be? Who would be a great person to read this book? Who would want to read this? I mean, everybody would want to read it.
Yeah.
I can already tell you that. Roni, you're an amazing person, and I know that for everyone watching on TV, they don't feel the energy that you have, but you have this great energy to you of hey, I'm going to take whatever I have and do something amazing with it. So I think that the story is probably going to be great to everyone. But what do you think about that?
I wrote it with young people in mind, and by young people I mean maybe age 15 to 30.
Yeah.
Perhaps, and I would say maybe women more than men, but I've had men read it and love it. So it's a book for anybody that feels there's something about themselves that they view as less than perfect, something that maybe they struggle to love and accept. For me, I saw my leg as a curse when I was younger. I went on to flip that belief, and it was a gift that was given to me. And the book is also a spiritual journey for me. So it was a process of learning to love and accept myself. Any young person who is struggling with that, this is a perfect book for them.
Oh, that was so beautifully said. Well, Roni, I really thank you so much for being here today. I appreciate you sharing your story, and I do. I hope that everybody gets a chance to read your book and gets the inspiration that I got from you today. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you, viewing audience. Thank you for watching this episode of TV Toastmasters. Again, I'm Cathey Armillas, and I hope you enjoyed our guest today, Roni Sasaki. And please join us again next time.
Hi everyone, welcome back to our program. I'm Laura Handke, Lake Oswego's certified transformational voice teacher, member of We Toasted and TV Toastmasters, and I am here today with Lenny Gotter. And Lenny and I are going to be discussing how finding your authentic voice can help Toastmasters in their speeches. Welcome to the show, Lenny. I'm really happy to have you here today.
Glad to be here.
Well, one thing that I find very interesting about you in our conversation earlier was that now you have been taking lessons with the North Portland Vocal Studio for about 5 years now.
Correct.
And you have found that you're an opera singer. Is
Yes.
that the truth? All right.
That is the truth. I'm a dramatic tenor.
A dramatic tenor opera singer. And I remember you telling me how uncovering that true authentic voice really transformed your life in other ways.
Absolutely.
Tell me a little about that.
Well, when you would have met me 5 years ago, I probably would have talked like this. And this is I'm actually bending my vocal cords to make it deeper so I can sound more manly.
Oh, and so that's why you were doing that. It was kind of a manly thing.
Yeah, I'm a big guy and I should have a deep voice.
Right.
But I don't have a deep voice. I'm actually a tenor. And now when I speak using the resonance of my voice which people still think I have a deep voice, but I have a resonant voice instead of a deep voice.
Right, and resonance is something we're going to talk more about later, because
Correct.
resonance is something that is absolutely critical for Toastmasters, and a lot of people who speak don't even know what resonance is.
No, not at all.
But when we start working as singers, we learn this, and it's very helpful. So, but let's also just talk a little bit, because you and I have both had this experience, you with the North Portland Vocal Studio, me with the Transformational Voice Institute, of learning our voices aren't exactly what we thought they were.
Oh, absolutely not. I learned singing because I wanted to sing hard rock and heavy metal songs, and I can't sing any of those songs. I actually can't sing most of the music I wanted to learn how to sing. And that I'm not going to complain. I can sing like Pavarotti, so it's not like I'm complaining about my voice. But your voice is it's a physical thing. I mean, everybody knows. In short order, you can figure out what your vocal range is, but your voice is way more complicated than that. It's an actual physical part of your body.
It is. It's our instrument.
Yes.
And everybody has a different physical makeup and therefore a different physical instrument. So finding what that voice is for you it's really a consciousness raising process, is what I believe.
Yeah, it's almost like finding part of your soul. It's finding out part of who you are.
Part of your identity.
Exactly.
Absolutely, and that's difficult to describe to people who haven't gone through vocal training.
Right.
And another thing that you and I had talked about is that you can't learn about your voice from listening to a teacher teach you, no matter how great that teacher is. It's an experiential process. It's something that goes on within you physically, and it really changes things.
Absolutely.
And so we are going to be talking today about really 4 aspects of vocal technique that will help Toastmasters. And so let's go ahead and just dive right into those right now. And those 4 areas are breathing, and not pulling your voice into the back of your throat, so to speak, which is what you were just doing when you were demonstrating how you used to talk, right? And then the 3rd, of course, is resonance, and the 4th is pitch. So just to kind of demonstrate what you just did, I hear in maybe I would say up to 75% even of Toastmasters are probably not speaking in their proper pitch.
Right.
And so this thing of pulling your voice back in your throat, so you're talking a little like this in a pitch that's a little bit too low, and there's no resonance, right?
But I may sound more authoritarian if I have a deeper voice.
Oh, yes, we may
I
sound more.
think we sound much more important if we are talking deeper.
Oh, and then there's that whole thing about projection, which we're going to get into in just a little bit.
Exactly.
Yeah, but first let's talk about the breath a little bit, because I remember you saying about that shallow, rapid breathing. So talk to me about that a little bit.
So I was just at a I've stopped in on a couple of National Association of Public Speakers meetings, and this woman gave a very long speech, a 20-minute speech, and I noticed that she got nervous, and when she started talking, she started doing this, and she started doing this, and she was getting very concerned about her breathing while she was talking. And if you take a deep breath like this, you can feel your vocal cords drying out. And that makes it more difficult to speak, which makes it more difficult to do what you're trying to do.
And that kind of shallow breathing makes you more nervous.
Exactly.
So what we really want to do is breathe from here, from the belly. You know, relax that belly, take nice, slow, deep breaths from here, as opposed to trying to do it from here. But let's get back to those dry vocal folds that you just mentioned, because this reminds me of a particular motivational speaker that you had talked to me about.
Hi, I'm Tony Robbins. How are you today? And he's just pushing his voice so hard.
Yes.
And I think part of that is his enthusiasm carries him away.
Yes.
That is something we definitely learn in singing opera. You have to be emotional, and some of these pieces you're singing are amazingly beautiful. And you have to emote, but you can't get carried away or you'll hurt yourself.
You don't want to push.
No, not at all.
And there's a lot of that pushing thing going on. And it's not just, we're not picking on Tony Robbins here, because it's many speakers. And it's hard on your throat, and it's not necessary when you have resonance.
Right.
So we've talked about the breathing. We've talked about not pulling that voice back in your throat. And we've talked about, let's move on to resonance now.
Okay.
So this is the thing. How do you describe resonance? Because once you get it, like this is not resonant, this is resonant. It's bringing that voice into the mask or the buzzy spot. But how do you describe this to people? Because it's challenging unless you experience it yourself.
Right. And I've heard the like singing in the mask. For me, you just have to visualize your sinuses are actually quite large. They're over the actual space of sinuses in your head is over 30 square centimeters, which is a lot of actual physical space in your head.
Right, and people, I remember you saying a lot of people think that your voice starts here and then it comes out here, but that's not true. It's all of this stuff up here inside your head that creates that resonance because the sound is actually bouncing around up there, kind of, so to speak.
It bounces around and comes out bigger and richer.
Right.
And so my voice teacher when we vocalize, we mentioned singing, trying to sing out of the top of your head.
There you go. That's one way to describe it.
And I think what you're really trying to do is just put your voice into that space in your head.
Yeah.
So it goes up and around.
Yes. And that's how I tended to describe it to new students, is by using my hand and using physical gestures, because it is, but once you create that resonance inside your own head and you know what it feels like, wow, it's like a light bulb goes off.
And you speak in that voice all the time.
All the time.
Every time.
And then you never need to push.
Right.
And for singers, being resonant helps you stay on pitch. But for speakers, that's the quality that helps your voice carry to the back of the room where you don't need a microphone.
Exactly. Like we mentioned in a previous conversation, all of like FDR and all of these great speakers that we still have on film from 50, 60, 70 years ago.
Right.
When they didn't have microphones to rely on, they had to learn how to project, which is what it's called, but it's really using the resonance of their voice. These guys would do speeches for hours and hours at length.
Yes.
And I equate that to my voice teacher. There's an opera called The Ring Cycle from Wagner, and it's 4 nights in a row. One of the nights is 4 hours long. The singers are on stage for 4 hours. The male lead tenor has 90 minutes of singing in that opera.
Wow.
And that 90 minutes alone. And Wagner is possibly the most difficult composer in the world to sing.
Yes.
There have been more singers have committed suicide
trying
to master Wagner than any other. And so you really have to be on your A game and finding your voice, and you have to use the resonance of your voice. So in that extreme example, you don't have a choice. If you don't use it, you'll die.
Well, that is kind of an extreme example, but
what I found is now that I know what my voice is and I know how to control it, I'm much more relaxed in talking to anybody, anywhere, in any conversation, in a meeting, or in any way at all. It's almost like it's not a concern.
Because it becomes second nature. It gets into your muscle memory, your body knows what to do, and it changes just the way that you communicate overall.
Right.
But let's talk just a tiny bit more about the difference between projection and resonance, because Toastmasters and speakers like to use the word project a lot.
Right.
How do I project my voice? Well, what they're really referring to is this resonance, which makes you a more efficient. I mean, efficiency is a key of resonance, because you are creating maximum sound with minimum effort, as opposed to projection could be what Tony Robbins is doing, which is pushing through your throat, pushing, which makes you go hoarse, which is tough on your throat and doesn't sound very good either.
Right.
So really, that's when people are talking about projection, what they really want is they want resonance, wouldn't you say?
Well, this is how I equate it. In opera, even if I'm singing a very soft part, I'm still using the full resonance of my voice. If I sing the same exact part with the full force of my voice, the note and the pitch are exactly the same. I'm just using a lot more power.
A lot more volume.
But I'm always using the full resonance of my voice.
Right.
Always.
And you can do that when you're speaking quietly.
Exactly.
Or you can do it when you're really throwing your voice out there. But as long as your resonance, that is the quality that people want to cultivate in their voices. So
that's where the power of your voice is.
Yeah, and I hope that we've described this in a way that's going to make sense to people who are listening, because it is a little challenging. But really what it goes back to are the two things. It goes back to breath and resonance. Breath and resonance. And as long as speakers know how to cultivate those two qualities with the relaxed breathing, not the shallow, rapid breathing from
Right.
here, but nice, deep, relaxed breathing, and they know how to be resonant, that solves all their problems. I mean,
Yeah.
in a very tiny nutshell, does it not?
Yeah, there's only a few parts to learning your voice.
Well, there you go. So wrapping up now, I mentioned my teacher is Linda Bryce of the Transformational Voice Institute. If people want more information about the Transformational Voice now, how can people find out about your voice teacher?
North Portland Vocal Studio, and it's owned by Mark. So.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you again, Lenny, for
Absolutely.
joining us today. And viewers, thank you for joining in again for another episode of TV Toastmasters. I hope that these tips, and please remember, breath and resonance, have helped you understand how speaking in your authentic voice can help improve your speeches and really improve your life.
My name is Charles Shamby. I'm on to TV Toastmasters as an associate producer. TV Toastmasters has enhanced my ability to speak in front of a room. Not only that, but has also enhanced my ability to speak in front of a TV audience.
I joined Toastmasters to improve my speaking, listening, communication, and leadership skills.
Toastmasters gave me
Incredible confidence,
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 Great listening skills,
poise,
great leadership skills.
leadership skills,
the ability to speak in public,
strength,
a captive audience,
quality feedback from the more experienced Toastmasters.
Toastmasters really helped me improve my listening skills.
sales skills,
opportunities to go to different groups and widen my whole horizon.
Toastmasters has given me a more focused me, and I'm a much better listener. Toastmasters is fulfilling.
It's a great place to fail your way to success.
wonderful way to meet people,
Networking.
strength.
It's addictive.
It's a club of self-improvement.
It's an experience, it's a ride that you won't forget, and you'll enjoy it every step of the way.